Hi, I'm Craig Lounsborough. Welcome to LifeTalk's Thanksgiving edition. It's great to be able to share a bit of this holiday with you this year. Have you ever wondered why your life is so lackluster? Have you ever wondered why it's always so flat, so unappealing, so bland and unfulfilling and empty of all the things that you wish it were not? So what do we do to deal with all of that? Well, we chase stuff in an effort to give our lives something they don't have, despite the fact that we're not even sure what it is that is or how much of it that we need. And so we chase after money and relationships and careers and popularity and success and all that material stuff. And by the end of the day or the week or the month or the year or whatever it is, we're more empty than when we started. We're going backwards, incessantly backwards. And that's because, even though we'd much prefer not to admit it, we're invested in all the wrong things for all the wrong reasons. And because that's the case, we start to believe that whatever it is that we're looking for ain't out there to be found. That's how we come to define the failure of our efforts. It's not that our priorities are out of whack. And so we tell ourselves that it's just that stuff's not out there to be found in the first place. And so the years roll by, and they roll by fast. And as they do, we're left with this gnawing sense of hopelessness and meaninglessness. And we start to tell ourselves that life's a joke, and a cruel one at that. That it's all some sort of game that we don't want to play anymore. And then hot on the heels of that kind of thinking, depression shows up. Or anxiety, or apathy, or some perpetually jaded attitude, or whatever it is that starts eating us up. And in the middle of all of that, have you ever backed everything up and asked yourself what your attitude is? I mean your attitude about life, about you, about your existence, about why you're here, about how you've been gifted and what you're supposed to do with those gifts. Have you ever thought about the possibility of working to develop an attitude that refuses to be colored by the world around you? An attitude that doesn't rise or fall based on whether everything is rising or falling? An attitude that overrides all of that, that stands above that stuff, that's potent enough to beat all of that. And so what's your attitude? You know, we're working in all the wrong directions for all the wrong stuff, because we've got the wrong attitude. If somehow you don't think that's true, then look at your life. Look at it. Are you happy? I mean, really happy. I mean, do you possess a happiness that's sustained and enlivening and energizing? Are you happy like that? Are you feeling fulfilled? Do you live with a sense of meaning and purpose? Or think about this. How has your life played out well? As you're engaged in life in all the many ways that you're engaged, has your return on your investment matched your investment, or are you coming up short? Possibly real short. Then take all of that and project all of that out into the future. If things continue the way they're going, if all of that continues to play out like it's been playing out, what's your future going to look like? Really? So what are we missing? Think about this. Life is dictated by our attitude about life. It's our attitude that determines what we should be chasing and how we should be chasing it, or if we should be chasing it at all. Our attitude is that secretly clandestine thing that guides our decisions and determines our outcomes. Our attitude is potent, it's powerful. So the obvious question then is, what's your attitude? Because that drives everything that we do. And because that's the case, it generates the outcomes of everything that we do. So, what's your attitude? Are you entitled? Are you owed? Are you a victim of whatever way that you happen to be a victim? Did life deal you a bad hand? Are people out to get you? Are you bitter? How about resentful? Or how about jaded or apathetic? Or just plain done? Look, life can be hard. It can be unfair, unjust, cruel, and it can turn on us in a heartbeat. It can turn us upside down or inside out. But whatever life does with us or to us, what's our attitude? And with all that being said, I want to share a couple of quotes with you to help you adjust your attitude a bit. The first quote reads, "Thanksgiving demands that we set aside the cultural narrative and be thankful for all of the things that the narrative says are not enough." You know, it's not about some sort of tedious evaluation where we determine if the things that we possess are enough. It's that we have them to possess in the first place. Here's another thought. Think about this one. If I am swallowed up in the bowels of negativity, and if the world seems eternally dark and forever foreboding, it is likely that I have recklessly abandoned any notion of thankfulness. It is entirely likely that I have set the whole of my mind on what I don't have, constructed the essence of my attitude around what hasn't worked, and fashioned a vision for my future on the cold corpses of the many dreams that died horrific deaths. Yet if I dare to be thankful for the fact that what I do have will always outweigh what I don't, that everything that didn't work places me one step closer to that which will, and that the death of one dream creates a space for the birth of a greater one, negativity will perish, light will dawn, and I will never fall to any of these things again. Attitude. How are we going to think about things? How are we going to choose to think about whatever it is that our life has become? And finally, I want you to think about this. I have learned that an attitude of thankfulness is not simply an attitude. It is a perspective, brazenly empowered to shape the lens through which I look at the world. And I have likewise learned that such an attitude is one of the very few things in life that not only has the ability to clean such a lens to perfection, but it has the power to render it crisp and sharp. And once you look through a lens such as this, no other lens will suffice, and neither will any other attitude. And so, as stated at the beginning of today's podcast, have you ever wondered why your life is so lackluster? Have you wondered why it's always so flat? So unappealing, so bland and unfulfilling and empty, and all of the things that you wish it were not? Maybe it's your attitude. Maybe that's why. And maybe this is why Thanksgiving needs to be more than food and football and Black Friday and Cyber Monday, because that cheapens Thanksgiving in ways that are entirely unacceptable and completely irresponsible. Don't do that. Let Thanksgiving be transformational in your life, because we all need it to be that way. Hi, I'm Craig Lounsbrough. An attitude of gratitude. We've all heard that phrase, but how much can that really change things? What kind of difference does that kind of attitude actually make? In a world gorged on materialism and swept up in the specter of greed, the whole idea of gratitude doesn't seem all that fitting. There just doesn't seem to be that much room for that kind of thinking, and that's a shame, because an attitude of gratitude can and will do for every one of us what all the materialism and the greed in the world could never do. In fact, it will give us everything the materialism and greed says it can give us, but can't. At LifeTalk, we've produced a 4-part series to help us better revive and more effectively cultivate a genuine attitude of gratitude. Enjoy this series beginning in November on iTunes, Google, Podcast, Player FM, iHeartRadio, and more. The darkness might keep us from seeing the hope around us, but it does not have the power to remove the hope
around us.